A loud scream pierced the night. Floodlights swept through the thick forest, and men with sweaty faces and torn clothes were running. They call this place Crouching Tiger Villa, a stronghold deep in the forests of Myanmar, built by one of the most powerful crime families in China. After the gunfire stopped, 12 people lost their lives. And just a year later, in a court in China, the judge read only one word, and that was death. 11 members of the Ming family were sentenced to death, but this was not justice, it was a purge. Because the empire established by the Ming was born right under the watch of Beijing. Now, why was a family sentenced to such a shocking punishment? That's what we will answer. But before we start that, if you're new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. In the remote mountains of Shan State in Myanmar, there is a hidden city that shouldn't exist. It's a place not built by the country or the government, but by crime families. Its name is Lao Lao Kai, a border town where Myanmar ends and something else begins. On paper, it's part of Myanmar, but in reality, it's owned by whoever can buy, arm, or corrupt those in power. And while the world turns a blind eye, the Ming family arrives. This family comes from Yunnan, businessmen turned traffickers, smugglers who became extremely wealthy, and in just a few years, they turned it into Lao Kai's own kingdom. Casinos line the streets, attracting Chinese visitors looking for entertainment forbidden in their own country. Money from illegal activities flowed into the hotels, and when the online scam exploded across Asia, the Ming family was more than ready. They built large compounds that could house thousands of workers who were promised high salaries and a good life. But when they arrived, they were turned into prisoners. By 2018, the city had a new name. It was a nickname whispered in Chinese forums, the city that shouldn't exist. A place without laws. It was run by warlords, private militias, and money. And in the middle of all this stood the fortress feared by everyone, the Crouching Tiger Villa. From the outside, this place looked like a luxury resort. Villas, fountains, neon lights. But inside, it was a prison. Thousands of people, most of them Chinese, were imprisoned inside. They were forced to run scams that took billions from victims all over the world. And the man who ruled over all of this was Ming, the quiet patriarch who built an empire on desperation and deception. His power was vast, reaching beyond borders. He paid militias for protection, with payments reaching officials to keep them quiet. And he made sure no one could see what was really happening inside his walls. For almost a decade, no one dared to touch him. Until one night, when gunshots rang out again. That's when the world finally noticed what the Ming family had really built. From the sky, Crouching Tiger Villa looked like paradise. Dozens of villas lined up, their golden roofs sparkling under the Myanmar sun, surrounded by gardens and large swimming pools. But every gate, every hallway, every door was locked from the outside. Inside, a machine of deception was running, a hell recognized by survivors as a scam factory. And deception. Each floor was divided, one room for the romance camp, one for crypto, and another for fake investments. Each worker had a headset, a fake identity, and a quota to meet. And those who failed to meet their quota were harmed, and those who tried to escape were never seen again. Most of them were not bad people, they were victims. Young men and women from China, Thailand, Malaysia, and Laos. They were promised jobs in customer service, hotels, or tech. But when they arrived, their passports were taken and the doors were locked. At night, screams echoed inside. A man begging for water, a woman crying for her family, and guards laughing as they passed by. The system they had was perfect and cold. They hired psychologists to create scripts for the romance camp, bought stolen data to target victims, and sold hope. Fake dashboards that made it look like earnings were growing until the game ended and the money disappeared. In just a few years, the villa became the engine room of what investigators called the Scandemic, a web of cybercrime that started in the jungles of Myanmar and reached banks all over the world. But the real reason why the operation couldn't truly be stopped was because of protection. They had militia guards on every road. The police turned a blind eye, and across the border in China, officials tried to ignore the whispers. Because the Ming were not just criminals, they were also profitable. They ferried in gamblers, laundered the money of the elite, and kept the chaos in the region profitable. As long as the money kept flowing, no one asked questions. And for many years, Crouching Tiger Bilya remained untouchable, a kingdom of lies hidden behind silence. But that silence was about to be shattered. Because by the fall of 2023, something happened that even the Ming couldn't control. Thousands of lives tried to escape, and that escape would start a war that would bring down the entire Ming Empire. All of this really started with whispers. Every week, the prisoners at Crouching Tiger Villa secretly made plans. They took leftover food, memorized the guards' schedules, and marked the gates that were slightly open whenever there was a delivery. They didn't care about money, they just really wanted to survive. When night fell on October 22, 2023, heavy rain poured in Lao Lao Cay. Lightning struck the forest, and around midnight, someone shouted the word every prisoner had been waiting for: run! A crowd rushed out of the compound, with men tearing down the fence with their bare hands and women carrying the injured. The guards fired their guns, first a warning shot, then real bullets. Some bodies fell into the mud, but a few managed to escape. They ran barefoot into the forest, injured, chased by dogs and drones. Some of them made it to the border and uploaded videos of the chaos, clips that spread on Chinese social media before the censors could act. For the first time, the public truly saw what Lao Lao Cai is: a slave city right on the edge of China. Anger exploded online. Some families saw their missing relatives in the videos, and state media tried to bury the story, but it was too late. Everything is out in the open now, and Beijing is completely blindsided. Because of what happened, the Ming family really panicked. Ming Guping, the patriarch, ordered a total lockdown of the entire compound and erased a dozen lives as a warning. However, the wall inside the villa and the systems that protect them have already been breached. Because it wasn't just the Ming who were exposed, a deeper truth also emerged. A multi-billion-dollar scam industry supported by warlords, politicians, and businessmen, many of whom are well-connected. And because Beijing was embarrassed in front of the world, it will respond in the only way it knows: through force. When the first videos of the escape reached China, they spread faster than the censors could erase them. Hundreds of thousands of comments flooded Weibo and WeChat. Worried parents asked why their children were locked up in a jungle in another country. Some even named the syndicates involved, with Ming Alumincia repeatedly mentioned. For many years, it seemed that Beijing quietly tolerated the corrupt economy of Lao Lao Cai. They prevent gamblers from entering mainland China, and the money that flows back, even if dirty, is accepted without question. But now the anger is too obvious, it's too viral, and the illusion of control has been completely shattered. After 2023, the Ministry of Public Security issued an order for Myanmar to clean up the area, or China would do it themselves. Because of the increasing pressure, the Myanmar junta launched its biggest operation in Shan State, and they called it Operation 1027. Many helicopters circled the border towns, militias were disarmed, compounds were raided, and traffickers were hunted down. And when the first arrests began, it seemed like the 10 years of protection for the Ming family ended in an instant. Ming Gao Goping fled from his villa and tried to negotiate with the local officials. According to eyewitnesses, when he realized that the protection was gone, he took his own life. This was quietly kept secret, but his empire collapsed within just a few days. More than 13,000 suspects were arrested throughout the Kukang region. Thousands were brought to China, handcuffed, and loaded onto a military transport plane. This included many from the Ming family, siblings, cousins, spouses, and children. All of them are facing charges of fraud, trafficking, torture, and murder. For Beijing, this was an opportunity to show off its strength. State media showed the extradition as if it were footage of a major victory, with China's justice reaching beyond its borders. But inside China, sometimes a different message is sent. This is more than just fighting crime. This is about dominance. The system that once enriched and protected the Ming is now erasing them to show that they are also the true force controlling the shadows. In just a few months, the Ming family, once the untouchable elite, became prisoners waiting for judgment. And what happens next will surprise even those who are used to Beijing's actions. The trial was held far from the border in a quiet courtroom in Zhejiang province. That wasn't just the easiest place, it was the easiest to control. No foreign media, no families of the accused, no possible leaks. Only the cameras of the state broadcaster were allowed in, ready to record the message Beijing wanted the world to hear. For many months, investigators unraveled the Ming family's entire empire. Casinos, trafficking routes, and the vast network of scam centers that reached different parts of Myanmar. Prosecutors called it the largest transnational cybercrime network ever dismantled in history. The Ming family is accused of taking more than 10 billion yuan, or nearly 1.4 billion USD, of laundering money using hundreds of shell companies, and leading the torture and killing of workers inside the Crouching Tiger Villa. The 39 members of the Ming family were lined up in court. Some remained defiant while others sobbed as the judge read their names one by one. And when the judge read the last line, the entire courtroom fell silent. 11 death sentences, 5 more with reprieve, and 23 with life and long-term sentences. After a few hours, the photos really appeared almost immediately in state media. The red seal, the courtroom, the headline, and the justice that was served for crimes in different parts of the country. But there was really something different about the way the news was reported. Nothing was mentioned about China's shortcomings in oversight, which used to profit from the same scam money. The narrative was very simple. The bad guys were punished, and order was restored. But outside of China, analysts read it differently. For them, it was a purge disguised as justice. Because for almost 10 years, the Ming Empire operated right on the edge of China, collecting taxes, bribes, and protection money through networks connected to officials. And when this became a public embarrassment, those networks needed a scapegoat, and the Ming family, who were once useful, suddenly became disposable. The death sentences were not just punishment, they were a warning to traffickers, to officials who lived off bribes, and to anyone who believes that power can hide its filth behind borders. But while Beijing celebrated what it called a victory, the continuous operations of the scammers kept rebuilding. New name, new family, and new flag. China destroyed the Ming dynasty, but it didn't destroy the business, and it seemed like it just pushed it underground. Beijing called it a victory, but scam empires never disappear. They just move to a new place. And as Myanmar closes its borders, the same scam network is reappearing in Cambodia. Same recruiters, same script, same crime. Only the name on the gate has changed. And when the money started pouring in again, the victims changed too. Not just Chinese, but also Americans, Europeans, and anyone who fell for the promise of easy money. Meanwhile, in Lao Lo Kei, the forest that was left behind is slowly being consumed again. The Crouching Tiger Villa half abandoned. These are the fountains in the walls with bullet marks from that night of escape. Until now, there are still many families in China searching for children who never came home. The Ming Empire burned down, but its ashes became the foundation of the next empire. This is always the fate of kingdoms built on lies, silent without heroes, and it is their own lies that bury them. And if you think the story ends here, oh no, it doesn't. Because on the other side of the border, there is another empire that is collapsing. Not in the forest, not even in the heart of Beijing itself. So if you're curious about who this is, subscribe now and watch out for our next video.